effect of the kind of latent presuppositions of progressive thinking that came along with kind of communism. The communism spoke of the withering of the state and also also of religion. And I think that that was part of the atmosphere, the cultural atmosphere of the 20th century, the intellectual atmosphere that presupposed the idea of progress, and progress meant the decline in religion and religiosity. So I understand kind of a lot of the Orthodox world's relationship to that is that's very fundamentally hostile. There's no arguing with the presupposition that you're a relic, you're an anachronism, you just don't know it. So when I came to Eretz Yisrael when I was a young man, and I found that there was a sort of vibrant culture and young people wanted to follow in the ways of their families in Orthodoxy and so on. That was a chiddush for me.
Right. So your point.
So my point is that the fall of communism and the end of the 20th century sort of has made the background assumption of progress kind of a moot point. Nobody believes anymore in a sort of fundamental level in this idea that there is inevitable progress in human development and in secular society. It's kind of gone. So that reflexive hostility that existed in much of the secular world isn't to my mind isn't the same as it was during this era that this was written, and when these early conflicts between the religious community and the Zionist community were happening. But I did want to say that in the Torah Tidbits this past week, that's put up by the OU, there's somebody who writes a column, and he brings a lot from one of the first Admorim to come to Eretz Yisrael, the Husyatner Rebbe.
Oh yes.
From Rizhin. And he does use the lashon of Reishis Giliosenu in his writings. I was kind of, I was taken by that.
It's really, it's amazing. You wouldn't believe the biggest rebbes and the rabbis and then Litvaks and Gedolim, they were all. Moshe Mordechai Epstein of Slabodka, and then Knesset Yitzchok, was a Goyin and a Godel and a Talmud Chochem. I told you he bought property. Moshe said he was driving by then in Hadera in 1887 or 89, and he didn't buy it because of real estate. It was the wave of the culture. So you're talking about the Husatner Rebbe. Satner Rebbe was the last living grandchild of the Holy Ruzhin Rabbi Yisrael of Ruzhin. Lived in Tel Aviv, around the corner from my daughter. I told you I went there to the gate. Now unfortunately they're going to put up a building of housing, but it was his property, and I davened over there. And you're talking about a big tzaddik, but. It was we've suffered so much, 2,000 years that we've suffered and suffered and suffered. Any glimpse of hope that resembles Geula, it's just, you know what I'm saying? And it's just, you have to, very compelling. So you have to always think about that. And then, whether it's a Satmar Rav or the Rashab or the Rebbe, as we're learning, said yes, it feels that way, and we need Eretz Yisrael, and we have to work there, and people should absolutely. But it's not, let's see. This is the thing that when you learn is let's discern between having Eretz Yisrael and the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael and everything else, and Reish is Geulatenu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And whatever. Not that the Siyatna Rebbe didn't have the mind, not saying that, but still, okay, he passed. I think he passed away in 49. So he was zeicha to see. I'm speaking out loud, thinking this is what he's thinking. 47, 48. He has the state. 48. A year later, he was probably already he was an old man. He knew he's not living forever, and so it's listen. When the Frierdiker Rebbe, we have to be honest. When the Frierdiker Rebbe during the Holocaust, he came out with a slogan, right? You guys, I told you this: "La'alta tshuva, li'alta legeula." Immediate tshuva will do immediate geula. The Lubavitch Chassidim in Brooklyn believed that this is Mashiach, and they even pointed to him. Our Rebbe. So you think the Mashiachism started in 1994? A friend of mine told me his Zayda, Rabbi Simpson, was the Rav of the Lubavitch Shul in Borough Park from 1929 on, and he passed away in 1977, I think. Anyway, so. A few years later, in the 80s, I guess, someone came running into the shul and says, "Where's that crazy rabbi?" He knew this. He knew Rabbi Simpson from the 40s. This individual, he probably lived in Borough Park. I don't know if he's religious, not religious. And he came running in and says, "Where's that crazy rabbi?" So they said the rabbi passed away, but why do you call him crazy? And Rabbi Simpson was a very quiet man. He wasn't a rabble rouser. He really was a very big Talmud Chacham, Yerushalayim, but, he says, he believed that Rabbi Schneerson, the previous Rebbe, is the Messiah during the Holocaust. You understand? And Simpson wasn't plastering, but I'm sure if you sat down around a table and he said, "Look, the previous Rebbe made this campaign and he wants us to publicize this, obviously there's something in the air." So, everyone, and even I don't know about today, but 1992 to 94, the years of the Rebbe, right? The Rebbe's language from when his wife passed away in 98, Rebbe Tzemchaya Bushka, till 92 when he had a stroke, the Farbrengens changed. The immediacy of Mashiach was every Farbrengen. It was like, you ask any Rebbe, Simon Jacobson, the people who wrote down his talks, Rebbe Yoel, he's not here any longer, but I'm saying there was a sense of immediacy those 4 years, 88 to 92. So it's not a wonder why Rabbi Yoel Kahn and others who later said, "Hey, we made a mistake." But he's telling you we made a mistake. But when they came to that conclusion, it made sense. So whether it's the Ruzhner that you mentioned, the Husatnir that you mentioned, or Lubavitchers of 1990, it's the same idea. Lubavitch, some might not like to agree to that, but if you think about it, sitting back objectively, it's the same idea. And the same idea is going on now. And that's why every year something happens, COVID. The pandemic of COVID, there were people who were saying this is a sign of Mashiach. In other words, because we're believers, because Yidden are believers, and we want an end to this golus, we latch on to things. And that's so I understand where it's coming from. I understand where it's coming from. And the discussion that we're learning is how to deal with it if when you come to the conclusion it isn't yet Mashiach, it isn't, how do you deal with it? So there's a Satmar approach, or as Moshe says, a Chareidi approach, and then there is the Chabad approach. By the way, Moshe, the Chareidi is a large word, and today, maybe when you came to Eretz Yisrael and Har Nof and that culture, it was that way, I don't know. It seems to me that the Haredi world outside of, Meir Sharim and a few other, and Bet Shemesh down there, I don't think that there is this, there might still be a feeling is, hey, look, these people are they're going to, you learn from them, your kids are going to learn from them, they're going to not be as religious, they'll go to the army. I would think that still exists, but the hatred towards such people, I think by many has dissipated, and one of the reasons is because some of their kids went to the army, and there's so much off the derech issues, and there's suicide, and, everything that we have today, believe me, it makes an impact. It does make an impact. And we have cameras, and we have the internet. So what it used to be, if you don't like this Chabadnik giving a Farbrengen in a Haredi area, you beat him up. Or you flatten his tires. You do that now, you go into jail because we got cameras. Again, and this is an ongoing issue. So, to say that it completely stopped, no, it didn't. There's always the pressure. Oh, we're going to, let's say the Ger, this whole thing of, believe me, it's going to dissipate because you can't get away with the Narishkeit, because, yeah, maybe some get away, but one's going to get caught, and one's going to sit in jail, and one's going to have issues and pay large fines. They think about it twice. That's it. Anyway, good discussion. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Have a great day. Shalom. Bye-bye. Freiliche Chanukah to everyone.